President's casket while everyone just stands around and just takes in a moment of history.
Truly an honor. Something as Ron Jones said, who has a military background, a job that many people would dream of having, being able to be a part of this state funeral. Again, you're looking live right now at the hearse, again, which will depart this area around 11:30 following the service that they'll have a departure service en route to Dobbins Air Reserve Base over in Marietta, where our Caitlin Ross has been. And Jeff, someone you interviewed the other day I thought was interesting, as the motorcade was running behind on the way to the Carter Center, one of the people said, Jimmy Carter, he liked things to be on time and in order. So, he said, he probably, that would be the only thing he wouldn't like, is that things are running behind. But it looks like today things are going as planned.
I went down, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago to Plains and did a story with Chip Carter. And he was telling the story about how his father always was, that his father ran by military time all the time, and if things were going too long, even a conversation with him, he would be watching his wristwatch to make sure that everything went according to time. He was that kind of man. He was organized in every conversation and everything that he did. It was really a definition of who he was.
Yeah, and we're seeing that play out with this state funeral. It really has, as Cheryl said, been in some ways simplistic, but in many ways really just thorough in every detail. As you're watching, the service get underway, this is going to be the departure service that will officially start right around 11 o'clock.
And right now you're watching military ceremonial troops. They're marching into position. Former President Jimmy Carter, his remains will be carried out of the Carter Center and put in the hearse that is parked in the circle of flags. We're going to just watch as they move into position.
This is a part of U.S. military tradition, and that is the death of a U.S. president and funeral with a military band like this. Really was first instituted in 1865 with Abraham Lincoln. Prior to that, it had not been a part of the ceremony for burying a U.S. president, but since Lincoln's death, it has been a part of virtually every funeral. And certainly, if you have seen film or very, very old kinescope of President Kennedy's funeral, familiar with this sort of military band and military tradition.
Ceremonial at
Again, we are just about 10 minutes away from the start of the departure ceremony, which will take place here, right here at the Carter Center. You see the military troops already in place, the band in place, and again, they will depart just around 11 o'clock.
I think one of the questions we have, certainly at this point, as the casket gets ready to leave Atlanta, is what sort of weather impact Washington, D.C. will be experiencing, whether it will slow down the schedule or how it will impact things. While it is no longer snowing, we've seen, courtesy of Cheryl Preheim and Stephen Boise, her photographer, clear blue skies. It is bitterly cold there. It's really, really cold.
Yeah, and because of the weather in Washington, D.C., today's event was moved back by an hour. While it is cold, it is a lot of snow there, so it's giving everyone a moment to get in place because of this weather delay. And at any moment, the former president's remains will be taken out of the Carter Center. We'll see that military band begin playing Amazing Grace at any moment. And once again, this is a live look at the Carter Center at the reflecting pool. The doors a little further down, which is where the president has been lying in repose over the last 36 hours.
And as Caitlin mentioned, something to point out, this will for the most part be a silent ceremony other than the music that you'll hear from the band. We won't hear any speakers. The next time we'll hear a speaker will actually be 4:30 or so this afternoon when we have the service in Washington. But until then, it will be overall a quiet service, is what you'll see. Several musical selections played out over the next 30 minutes or so. And again, the people that you have seen lined up outside, as we've been pointing out, these are people who were really close to the Carter family, not just the family themselves, obviously, but people who worked at the Carter Center, many dear friends, their spouses, people who had a real connection to the family. Those are the people who were invited to be a part of this special departure ceremony.
Carter's had, at the Carter Center, they had like their own little condominium that they would stay at for extended periods. President Carter would famously show that he and Mrs. Carter would sleep on a Murphy bed there, that a U.S. president and his wife would be sleeping on this very small bed that would come out of the wall, which is what a Murphy bed is. And it was a big part of their lives staying there. And oftentimes we would see them in the Ponce Highland neighborhood in the restaurants. Wisteria, which is a restaurant that's no longer there, was a popular choice. We used to see them certainly at Manuel's over the years for an assortment of events, but they could be seen walking in the neighborhood, walking in the area, and their lives were very much tied to the Carter Center, not only in word and deed, but they live there as well, and it's where they spent time when they were here in Atlanta. And whether they were on their way to a Braves game or a Falcons game, it was always a base for them, along with their family. Lots of room to stretch out, lots of acres, and they greatly enjoyed that property. It was more than just a place, of course. We know by now that bore his name. Yeah,
and it's kind of emotional knowing that this will be the president's final time at the Carter Center, a place where you mentioned, Jeff, he spent so much of his time. We've been preparing for this over the last, 23 months, since he's been in hospice, but knowing that the hearse will take him off and, it'll be the last time. And as you mentioned earlier, Jeff, most presidents are buried, at their presidential library and museum, but he wants to be buried in Plains, Georgia. Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it is, of course, where they lived. It was his boyhood home, and was where it all began for both of the Carters. But there was also a great sense of community that's still there even in death, and that they were very, very concerned about that portion of Georgia and keeping Plains alive, that neighborhoods would, not neighborhoods because it's so small, but that it would be a community that would still be vibrant, that would still have some economic strength about it. And by being buried there, it will ensure that people will come to Plains, which is
out of place. It's hard to get to Plains, whether you're going to go through Columbus and cut over, or you're going to go I-75 from Macon and then cut down. But it is a place that's out of the way, and without the Carters there, I think there's great concerns about its economic health and Sumter County in the years ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point. Again, you're looking live outside the Carter Center. We are just about 5 minutes away from the departure ceremony that will happen right here outside the Carter Center. You're looking at some of the invited guests, which again include some Carter Center employees, family members, the Carter family members along with their spouses and friends. And I talked to one of the Carter Center employees, Ms. Bernstein Hollis. She had worked with the Carter Center for some 46 years, for the Carters rather, for 46 years. And she said, look, I grew up in Plains with Mr. Carter. He invited me to come work with him in Washington. When I got done with Washington, he said, hey, come work with me at the Carter Center. So a lot of these people that you're seeing out there, they have been with the Carters, not just in this type of service, but in multiple areas and layers of their life. And so this is a really important moment for them.
Yeah, and if you were able to walk through the repose, these were some of the volunteers that were welcoming you, ushering you through the exhibits. When I went yesterday, and many of them had a smile on their face. They were excited to see so many people show up to the Carter Center, people of all ages, all walks of life, all generations, all races, taking a moment to not only go through the repose, but also walk through the exhibits. So these people have a great appreciation for the work of the Carter family. And it's nice to see these individuals be a part of this moment in history, having a moment to themselves, having a quiet ceremony to say their own final goodbyes to the former president.
Well, we will never see another life like this, and we will never see a former president live his life after the White House in the way that this one has. It is unprecedented, and it certainly is his definition. But, we've been talking a lot about what his definition is, and again, the complexity of Jimmy Carter is such that it's almost impossible to frame him of who he was and what he was, but we do know what he did and the greatness after the White House and his impact on people, not only politically, but medically, socially, in so many different ways that were unexpected when he left in 1981.
And once again, just to set the scene of where we are right now, the former president's remains will leave the Carter Center for the final time. We are waiting for the remains to be taken out of the Carter Center, where it's been lying in repose for the last 36 hours. Or Hearst will take his remains to Dobbins Air Reserve, where he'll take his final journey to D.C. Coverage continues at midday.